Do we still have really a country? Is the United States spiraling into a sort of irreversible decline? The historian Edward Gibbon, who wrote The Decline and Fall of the Roman Empire, writes as follows. It was at Rome on the 15th of October, 1764, as I sat musing among the ruins of the Capitol, while the barefoot friars were singing vespers in the Temple of Jupiter, that the idea of writing the decline and fall of the city first started to my mind. So here's Gibbon in the glory of Rome, but it's a decayed glory, and he sees these sort of monks that to him represent Christianity, which is to say the destruction of Rome. And he's filled with this sense of dread and mourning, and he gets the idea, let me write about this great civilization that is now never going to be great again. Now, something like those feelings passed through my mind recently as I watched the sort of open border that the Biden administration has created in the South, and watching people just kind of pour in. Here's a little glimpse of what that looks like. If you're listening on audio, I'm just going to describe what we're seeing. And what we're seeing is just an open gate. People come streaming in, and this is happening hour by hour, constantly. And we're not just looking at, I'm just looking at the pictures here. We're by and large looking like what appear to be a group of South Americans or maybe even Africans. They're not Mexicans. They're coming through Mexico, but from all over the place. Why? Because they know that the gate is open. They in fact turn themselves right into the border people. Why? Because the border people give them a court date and then go, yeah, head on in. It's kind of like going to Disneyland, and you can come to your court date if you choose to later, but in the meantime, you're already in the park, in the country. Now, some senses as an immigrant, I can kind of identify with the eager anticipation with which these people are coming. They're coming for a better life. Some of them, by the way, are Venezuelans. There's an article in Breitbart that 100 Venezuelans crossed the border into Texas. And obviously, I have sympathies for the Venezuelans. Debbie, my wife, is Venezuelan. So the idea that people are fleeing Cuba, fleeing Venezuela, fleeing political persecution, by the way, that's a legitimate reason to be a refugee, and our refugee laws allow for that. It's completely different, by the way, when people just come because, hey, I think life will be better for me in America. Or even I'm poor. There are poor people, let's remember, all over the world. I grew up in a city where probably 80% of people are living in virtually destitute conditions. All of them would come here if they could. So what we're seeing here is a border invasion, And but Debbie said a striking thing to me this morning as we were sipping our lattes. She goes, all these people that are coming here, and they think that they are going from a little dinghy that's abandoned at sea. And they think like, wow, there's a big ship. This is amazing. This is fantastic. Rescue. But, says Debbie, are they actually boarding a sinking ship? And I think what she's referring to is the fact that, look, you have Venezuelans fleeing socialism to come to a free country, but isn't America moving in the direction of Venezuela? Isn't it the case that liberties that we once took for granted in this country are now jeopardized? Isn't it true that America now is not the same country that it was even 10 years ago, let alone 20 or 30 years ago? And if that's true, if we are a sinking ship, then eventually the immigration will stop. It will stop when? It will stop when America stops being an exceptional country. It will stop. It's kind of like saying that, water will kind of find its own level. But once water reaches its level, once everything is level, once life in America is not particularly different or better than anywhere else in the world, well, who's going to want to come to America anymore? Now, who's doing this? Who's making it happen, and why? The left traditionally has been anti-immigrant for an obvious reason. Immigration, and illegal immigration notably, drives down the prices of labor for the working class. This is why socialists historically have been against immigration. Marx, I think, would find what's going on in America really surprising. Why is it the case that a party that purports to be for the working man, for the ordinary guy, would want to bring in all kinds of foreigners who are going to make life more difficult for the working class in America? But I think for the left, and the Democrats, they've kind of given up on the American working class. They see the working class as sort of racist and religious and no longer sympathetic to the objectives of socialism. I think the way we can understand this is that they're engaged in a kind of great remaking of America project. That was Obama's term. I'm going to remake America. Well, how do you remake America? As the left sees it, there's kind of old America, and that's the America that stretches from the founding to now. And then there's kind of new America with new people who don't have the old kinds of attachments, who don't really believe in American exceptionalism or the American experiment either. If you think of all these immigrants, yeah, they're coming to America, but do they believe in America? Or is it just the case that they want to have a better standard of living, but they have no broader loyalties than that? Old America and you may say new America have been precariously balanced, the one against the other. And you can see this in the very close elections we've been having between these two kind of evenly divided groups. And I think what the left wants to do is tip the balance. And so their way of tipping the balance is, open the gate. Let's sort of change the DNA of the country. Let's literally change the composition of the country. And by changing the composition of the country, we bring in new people who reduce the influence and cultural power of the old people. And in this way, new America doesn't coexist alongside old America, but new America supplants, pushes out, and ultimately brings to an end old America.